r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. What's a now obsolete job from history that sounds made up now? It's possible this still exists in places, but a relative of mine used to work as an office G lady. Her whole job was walking around an office with a trolley that had a tea urn, biscuits, sandwiches, and cigarettes. I think the tea was free, and the rest was stuff you could purchase. She and her kind have been replaced by vending machines and instant hot water dispensers. Computer. Before referring to a machine, a computer was a person who did computational tasks. Nightmen, who collected the piss pots from large cities and sold it as manure to farmers. Iceman would bring giant blocks of ice to homes that had ice boxes instead of electric refrigerators. I forgot the name of the occupation, but there used to be people you could pay to come round and correct the time on your clocks. They'd usually have a very exact watch, and every morning they'd go round the city hall, or the main train station, or wherever the local time was kept, and set their watch to that time. And then they'd go round the city to check the time on their watch to the time on the clocks, and correct the clocks if necessary. Edit to at, for fudge's sake, stop telling me they're called knocker-uppers, that's a whole other obsolete profession. A knocker-upper. In Victorian England, people would go around hitting people's windows with long sticks to wake them up in the morning. My friend, who is 94, was a telegram boy in his youth. Rag and Bone Man. Would come around and collect all your unwanted items, including your dead. Tinker. Used to repair pots and pans door to door. Also a knife sharpener. I remember seeing one as a kid. He had a push bike that converted into a grinder that was pedal powered. Mudlarks. In Victorian London, they would comb through the exposed riverbed of the Thames, looking for anything valuable, coins, coal, etc., that they could sell. The poor would actually make a very meager living, but still a living, off of the job. Wasn't too long ago that there were people who stood by a conveyor belt and picked out the burnt cornflakes. It helped install the optical sorting machines that replaced them. TV control room operator. I used to queue up videotapes, adjust levels, roll commercials, all analog, all in real time. Used to be federal law that transmitter sites had to be manned 24/7. An elevator operator. My father was one back in the 50s. Telephone switchboard operator. My mum was one in the telephone exchange in the Liverpool in the 60s. If you were rich enough to have a phone in your house, you'd just pick it up, and my mum would instantly be on the other end. You'd tell her who you wanted to speak to, and she'd put the jack plug relating to your phone in the socket relating to who you wanted to talk to. She'd press a button to ring the recipient's phone, and then introduce you to the recipient and leave you to it. And then listen into the conversation for gossip ammo with the other switchboard girls. From not so long ago, my father's job was extremely lucrative, but for obvious reasons went obsolete. He worked in a small office, where him and about 5 others were sent files, typically for law firms, that they were asked to copy. A lot. I'm talking hundreds of copies of 100+ page files. They typically charged per page. About 25 years ago, I'm 26, don't exactly remember what the charge was. As time went on, less offers came in, and the business owner who was elderly passed it to my father, drop out with a general educational development. My father managed to snag a really good contract, and worked exclusively with the local law firm. Until about 15 years ago, he basically lived in his office, printing papers practically 18 hours a day. But it paid. If we are talking gross profit, he was earning almost 500 grand annually. Net profit was a lot less impressive, but still a good salary, about 150,000. Unfortunately, he wasn't wise with money and rarely saved. He decided to renovate his office and buy all new equipment. At the same time, he heavily repaired our house as well, which happened to be the same month the law firm told him they no longer needed paper printouts. At the age of 45, with a lot of business debt, my dad managed to start all over as a pet store employee and is once again about to take ownership, almost 15 years after that family disaster. We have our spats, but that man worked his ass off to give his family a life. Pin setter at the bowling alley. My dad did this as a teen. He called it pin monkey. File girls. 1980s and prior. Usually young women who did admin work, focused on physically retrieving, putting away, and keeping files. I started office work in the 90s and hear mention of file girls in more than one office. Was crazy to me then, the girls part, can only imagine now. Lamplighter. Which always reminds me of the Little Prince. Garden hermits. Rich people hired them to live in grottos on their estate and act wise and ancient. Sin eater. Used to be that people thought your soul would linger or be banished to heck if you died unburdened of your sins, so they'd hire someone called a sin eater to sit graveside and eat bread, the body, which had presumably absorbed the sins of the dead, until there was no unfinished business for the departed, and they could go on their merry way to heaven. The sin eater was usually a very poor person, so except for the bit about walking around with the unspoken sins of the dead in their gut and hanging out on a hillside full of decomposing corpses, being a sin eater was a kind of sweet gig that came with money and a meal. In early England, villages would have a person appointed the ale conner. His job was to drink the beer at each public house, judge its quality, and make sure it was being sold at the correct strength and price. Sometimes they would sit in a puddle of the beer in their leather pants and judge how much their pants stuck to the bench to check sugar content. TV repairman. Now you just get a new TV. A water witch. They used to be in the yellow pages. My great grandpa couldn't find water on his land. They drilled many times and found nothing. They hired a witch and he found water on the first day. When tested, they don't do any better than anyone, yet a good witch will find water. My buddy's grandpa used a witch to find his well. It's mostly having a good eye and an understanding of the lay of the land and the aquifer, but the sticks make it seem like magic. You have to sell it after all. If you need to witch a well, you need a good witch, not a charlatan. I'd hire a witch if I needed a well drilled. They aren't spendy. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more. Have a nice evening.